It is week 12 in the NFL, guys, so you know what that means. I'm going to give you my betting prediction for every game. We're going to break down every matchup. I'm going to give you my best bets at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And if you want to catch my Monday Night Football prediction, I put that on my TikTok or my YouTube short, so also keep an eye on that. And let's just quickly review week 11. I went 6-6. Previous to week 11, the 6 weeks before that, I was in the green above 500. So week 11 was the first week in the last 7 weeks where I didn't go in the green. I didn't go in the red either, but I stayed even at 6-6. So it was bound to happen. Couldn't be in a heater that long. But if you guys stayed for the ride, you guys won some money. But with all that said, let's turn the page on week 11. It's time for week 12. There's a lot of teams on a lot of buys this week, so it's going to be a shorter week. But I think there's some good matchups here for everybody to make some money, to make some profit. So with all that, guys, let's get it started. Let's break down week 12. In our first matchup, we have the Steelers versus the Browns, with the Steelers being favored by 3.5 and the over-under being 36.5. The Steelers are coming off a great win against the Ravens. I had the Steelers plus the points, came through for us. Always take Mike Tomlin when he's a dog, especially around that 3.5 number. The Browns, my God, they're coming off an embarrassing loss to the Saints. The Saints team where their wide receivers were all hurt, their corners were hurt, and Saints just blow them out. Not a good showing by the Browns, especially coming off a bye. This is a good AFC North rivalry, but is it going to be a good close game with the Steelers being 8-2 and the Browns just, being in one of the worst teams in the NFL? I don't know. I mean, the only way I see this game being a close game is I checked out the forecast and they're calling for rain, snow, and wind for that game. So classic AFC North game. So keep an eye on that if you're gonna bet. On this game, that the weather looks like it's gonna be a sloppy, crappy day. So keep an ey out for that. The Steelers are averaging 23.3 points a game, and they're only allowing 16.2. So that's really great to see. They didn't have any touchdowns against the Ravens, but I think that's a testament to Pittsburgh's defense to hold the Ravens to a low number, and Pittsburgh still winning without scoring any touchdowns. That's pretty impressive. And they're only letting teams rush 90.8 yards against them, which ranks 4th. So they're a good team against the run. And the Browns, they're only averaging 16 points a game. And they're allowing the most sacks. I mean, that was when Watson was the quarterback, but their offensive line is beat up, or it has been beat up. So keep an eye on that. TJ Watt might, sack Jameis Winston a crap ton in this game. They are last in third down conversion, the Browns. And like I said, their offensive line is just so beat up, and their line they just seem janky as hell. I mean, if you watch that game against the Saints, they just seem like what were they doing during the bye? Were they just eating sandwiches and hamburgers and not like game planning? It just looks so janky, that offense. And since Nick Chubb's been back, he hasn't done anything. You'd think he'd pick it up by now, but maybe that's saying more about their offensive line. Maybe it's that beat up, this number, the Steelers are only favored by 3.5, and I know Mike Tomlin does not have a good record when he's favored by only 3 or 3.5 points, but you would still think the Steelers would be favored by 6.5, 5.5. I know it's a rivalry game. I know the weather is crappy, but you would think to be favored by more than 3.5. And each of the Browns' last 8 games in November, they've all gone under. So that it makes you sound like it's going to be a close game. This number scares me. I don't like it. I'm going to stay away from who's going to win this game. And the weather is saying the under, but I think the best bet here is Nick Chubb to finally get a touchdown, an anytime touchdown. I really do. I don't like the over-under. I think 36.5 is very low. I think the 3.5 points for the Steelers, I think that's a really weird number to have. So I think there's going to be a lot of running in this game. I think each team is going to be rushing the ball because of how bad the weather is going to be. So give me probably Nick Chubb over his projected yards, but give me definitely Nick Chubb anytime touchdown. I think that's the safest and best bet for this game. Let's talk about Tampa Bay versus the New York Giants. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers being favored by 5.5 and the over and under being 41.5. The Buccaneers are coming off a bye, but they get Mike Evans back, which is huge. Mayfield had nothing but Cade Otton to throw to, so getting Mike Evans back is crucial for the Buccaneers. The NFC South, it's really crappy division, but it is, I believe, is still wide open. The Falcons look terrible. The Saints look awful. I mean, the whole division looks awful, but it gives the Buccaneers a chance to win a couple games and get in first place. So getting Mike Evans is huge. And, give credit to the Buccaneers. I swear Baker Mayfield was playing 110% every game, sacrificing his body. He never gave up. So, give credit to Baker Mayfield. He's having a hell of a season. He's thrown for 2,505 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. That is a great season so far. And I think it's going to get any better because Mike Evans is going to come back. And obviously Mike Evans coming back will open the door for Cade Otton. Let's talk about the Giants. They are coming off a bye week as well. But before that, they lost to the Panthers, if you can believe it. But let's talk about this GM and the owner real quick. This GM or this owner, both of them, who the hell knows, signed Daniel Jones to a long-term deal. And they let go of Barkley. If that's not a fireable offense, I don't know what is. Barkley is killing it for the Eagles. Guy's going to probably get like 1,500, 1,600 rushing yards. And you kept Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, who looks god-awful. The guy can't throw worth a damn. I mean, somebody needs to be fired in this offseason. I'm pretty sure the head coach and all of them are going to be gone, but that GM needs to go too. So with that, they're going to start Tommy DeVito, the Italian guy, Tommy DeVito. I don't know why they're surpassing Drew Lock. I think they're surpassing Drew Lock because they want to sell tickets, because people might think it's entertaining if him when he scores a touchdown and throws that bullshit out there, because there's no other reason. They get Tommy DeVito's not that good. So having Tommy DeVito there, he's probably going to lose a ton of games, but he's going to sell some tickets because it's going to be fun to watch him rush into the end zone and break his back, because he wasn't that great of a passer. He can't throw down the field people. So I guess, they're going to try. There's just a business decision. They're just having him there so he can sell tickets, and they can also still lose games and get a better pick. That's all I can see why they would start DeVito over Lock. Another thing, I guess, the only thing, I guess, the Giants going to hold their head on, besides Malik Neighbors, who's going to be a great wide receiver in this league, is their defense. Dexter Lawrence has 9 sacks for the season. That's really great. Their front 7 is pretty good when they're healthy, but that's one thing they can hang their hat on. Their defense is allowing 22 points a game, but the Giants, they have failed to cover the spread in each of their last 5 games. So just awful and top of awful. And they're dead last in red zone percentage. I mean, is anybody surprised by that? This game means more to the Buccaneers than it means the Giants. The Giants are just trying to sell tickets with Tommy DeVito, okay? Baker Mayfield is fighting his heart out to win games when he have none of his weapons. Now they get Mike Evans back. That window is still open for them to win the NFC South. So with all that, I think the Buccaneers win this. I think they cover the 5.5. And if I had to choose over/under, I like the over 41.5. But I think the best bet here is Tampa Bay to cover the 5.5. I think they cover it easily. Now this matchup has a potential to be a blowout or a beatdown. That is the Chiefs versus the Panthers. Kansas City being favored by 10.5, and the over/under being 43. The Chiefs are coming off a loss to the Bills. It's their first loss of the season. And surprisingly, the Panthers are coming off a bye, but they're on a 2-game winning streak. You heard that right, folks. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers are on a 2-game winning streak. Who would have thought? One would think this is bad timing, them meeting the Chiefs, because the Chiefs may want to make an example out of the Panthers. But if you dig deep just a little bit, the Chiefs have never covered a double-digit spread this year. They're 0-3 when covering a double-digit spread, so keep that in mind if you think if you're going to bet on the Chiefs that they are going to cover this number easy, because they haven't. and I know it's the Panthers. Panthers, they have the worst defense in the league. They have actually no weapons besides the running back in Chuba Hubbard. But, they might get Adam Thielen back this game. They have some young wide receivers, and they have Miles Sanders, but he's not so great. But they do have that rookie running back who will be playing this game. So, it's not so good weapons around Bryce Young. I don't know how they're doing it, but there's not so many weapons around him. When I look at this game, I look and I see the Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't covered a double-digit spread this year, not once. I look at the Panthers being terrible at defense, but they're on a 2-game winning streak, so they got a little motivation, a little morale boost. And overall, I'm going to stay away from this game. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to take the better team, the better coaches, the better players. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to take Kansas City to cover the 10.5. And I'm also, if I had to, I'll take the under the 43. I just don't know how the Panthers cover this. I know Kansas City plays in a lot of close games, but do you really want to pay any money on Bryce Young to cover this game against one of the top teams in the NFL? I wouldn't want to do that. So I'm staying away from this game, but if I gun to my head, I would take Kansas City to cover the 10.5. We have the Cowgirls versus the Commanders. Commanders being favored by 10.5 and the over-under being 45.5. Cowboys coming off a blowout loss to the Texans. Before that, they got blown out by the Eagles. Cooper Rush is still the quarterback for this team. Dak Prescott's out for the year. Cooper Rush is only completing 57% of his passes. He had his best game last week, but that's not saying much. He had to throw 55 times. He only threw 1 interception, so I guess good for him on that. But he only threw 1 touchdown, and he had over 300 yards passing. So I don't know. It was his best game so far, but I'm not impressed. Cowboys have the worst rushing attack in the league. They only average 81.7 yards per game. That is god awful. That's pitiful. They're on a 5-game losing streak, and they have failed to cover the spread as an underdog against the NFC this whole year. So not looking good for the Cowgirls. Washington, they're also coming off a blowout loss to the Eagles. Their offense, it's not as good, or it's not as running as good as it was beginning of the year. I don't know if it's because Jaden Daniels' ribs are broken or people are getting tape and they know how Jaden Daniels works. So keep that in mind. Their offense has been a little shaky, if you will. But they did play 2 teams that have good defenses. That could be another good reason why. They have one of the worst rush defenses in the league, by the way, the Commanders. But does that matter? Because the Cowboys have the worst rushing attack. So I think those things just neutralize each other. The worst rushing defense, or one of the worst rushing defenses, against the worst rushing offense. Nothing's happening, so don't worry about it. With that being said, both these teams are on losing streaks. Both these offenses are struggling. Jaden Daniels, like I said, looks like he's regressing, or it could be his rib injury, or it could be teams have more tape on him. But I think the rib injury is getting to him a little bit. Cooper Rush cannot complete the ball that well, only completing 57% of his passes. They have no run game. All they have is CeeDee Lamb. That is it. So with all that, I think the best play is the under 45.5. If you can get at 46, take it. 46.5, shop your books. But I think the best bet's under 45.5. I don't know if the Commanders could cover this big number, 10.5. It's still a rival game, but I don't know. I'm not trusting any of these teams right now. But I think the best bet for this game is under 45.5. This matchup has the potential to be a good game. It's the Patriots versus the Dolphins. Miami being favored by 7 points and the over-under 46. The Dolphins, if you take a look, they have a small window to still make the playoffs. It's not completely over. They're on a 2-game winning streak, beating the Rams and the Raiders. Good win against the Rams. They dropped 34 on the Raiders. And the Raiders defense is not that terrible. If you guys go take a look, they are not that bad, the Raiders defense. Their offense is, there's nothing there. Since Tua's came back, they are averaging 28 points a game. That is a huge, huge upgrade from the crappy backup quarterbacks they had. Huntley, some guy named Doyle, and then Skylar Thompson. Those guys are bums. Those guys are going nowhere in the NFL. So Tua being back on that starting for this team is just like Jesus, the second coming of Jesus. Because look at all that they're just putting up points. They're staying competitive. So I wouldn't be surprised the Dolphins take a run at trying to make the playoffs here. Don't forget they still have a solid defense. They have a solid secondary. So they're just not all the offense. They're just not all offense. The Dolphins. They have the 11th ranked rush defense, so they are stopping teams from running. And the Dolphins are 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 games against the Patriots. So they do have the Patriots number. But not just to glaze the Dolphins here. The Dolphins are 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 home games. But that's because they had a lot of shitty quarterbacks. I want to point that out. They're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 home games. But they had some of the worst backups I've ever seen in the NFL. So take that with a grain of salt. Now let's talk about the Patriots. Patriots are coming off a close loss to the Rams. Since Drake May has been implemented as the starting quarterback, they're doing better on offense. Yes, he has some rookie mistakes and throws some interceptions, but that's expected for a rookie. But he's looking better than Brissett. In the last 4 games, they're averaging 21 points. They're 2-2 in those last 4 games, and in those 4 games, they played against some solid defenses. They beat the Bears. They have a really good defense. They played the Titans and the Jets. Those are some other teams with solid, good defenses. And the Patriots went 2-2. Not too terrible. But if the Patriots want to be successful against the Dolphins, they need Stevenson, the running back, to get it going. They just need the run game to be fluid, and so Drake May could work off the play action, and he could throw the ball, or he himself could use his legs. They're 4-6-1 against the spread, so keep that in mind. But I think, even though this is a rival game, it's 7 points. I think the Dolphins have way more juice. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They're averaging 28 points a game since Tua has come back as a starter. And they see that they have an outside chance of making the playoffs. And I think that's going to give them a big boost because this team was down in the dumps when they had those crappy backup quarterbacks. So I think the Dolphins make this another statement game, even though it's a rival game. And I like the play recently from the Patriots. But I think they make this a statement game. So give me Dolphins to cover the 7 points and to go over 46 as well. But I think the Dolphins to cover the 7 is the best play. Now this matchup has a potential sneaky cover by the road team. And that is the Titans versus the Texans, with the Texans being favored by 8 points and the over-under being 42.5. Now the Titans are 0-6 against the spread in the last 6 games. They're coming off a loss to the Vikings. But they're only allowing the second fewest yards per game and the fewest passing yards. That's pretty good for a team that's not doing so well this year. Will Levis in the last 2 games has thrown for 470 yards with 2 touchdowns and only 1 interception. That's not bad. I think we're all used to Will Levis throwing crazy plays and throwing interceptions and doing too much and fumbling the ball. Maybe the Titans coaching staff are now teaching him, or he's learning not to do so much. So maybe he's turning it around. The Titans need the running backs because the Texans, they have a great secondary, one of the best secondaries, and they're great against the pass. So Pollard and Spears, the other running back, they need to have a good game for them to have a chance, or to at least cover this game. Like I said, Snead, their best corner, he's probably out for this game. The Titans have lost 14 of their last 16 road games, so it's not too great. And the Titans have failed to cover the spread in each of their last 6 games, like I said before. Let's talk about the Texans. They're coming off a blowout win against the Cowgirls. They put the Cowgirls in their place. Houston has one of the best pass defenses in the league, great secondary. One of the problems I have with the Houston Texans, they have a good record. They're 7-4, but you would like to see Stroud have more touchdown passes. He only has 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and this is going into week 12. I know they have Nico Collins for a while and Diggs is out for the year, but come on. You guys still make lemonade out of lemons here. Plenty of quarterbacks do it. So that's something I want to see Stroud do more of. Throw more touchdowns, get him to your weapons, and make something happen. But when you have Mixon, when you have Joe Mixon, you may not have to pass the ball. Joe Mixon has 10 touchdowns, so maybe you don't need to be throwing the ball that much. But it's just a concern. You want to see Stroud throw a little bit more. Texans are allowing the lowest completion percentage in the league, and they're the third lowest. They're allowing the third lowest yards per attempt. So that's pretty good for the Texans there. And they're second in the league when it comes to interceptions. So they're getting turnovers, and they could get after the quarterback. By the way, they have some really good defensive ends and linebackers that could rush the quarterback. Everything is screaming Houston Texans in this game to take them to cover the points. They have the weapons: Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, Tank Dell. They have a really great secondary who are second in interceptions, and they could get after the quarterback. But when I really think about it, I think this is going to be the battle of the defenses. Titans really have a good defense as well. I think if the Titans could just get their run game going, which is the Houston Texans' Achilles heel, I think they could keep it close enough to cover this spread. So I think this is going to be a defensive battle. I think the Titans are going to keep it close enough. So give me the Titans plus the 8 points. And if I was going to choose an over-under, I think I would take the under 42 points. But I think the Titans plus 8 is definitely the best play for this game. And we have a potential high-flying matchup here. We have the Detroit Lions versus the Colts, with the Lions being favored by 7.5 and the over-under being 50.5. Detroit's coming off a massive blowout to the crappy, lonely Jaguars. I mean, the Jaguars should just, whatever minor leagues, they should go to the XFL. The Jaguars lost so bad in that game that the Jaguars should join the XFL because, man, that was just embarrassing. So the Lions are coming off a great blowout win. They're on an 8-game winning streak. They're obviously one of the best teams in the league. You could probably argue maybe the best team in the league. I don't think they're the best team, but they're definitely in the top 3 teams in this league. Detroit scores 33.6 points a game, which is the most in the NFL. They're also 6th in passing and 3rd in rushing. So this is just an offensive juggernaut who gets it done. But I want to mention their defense is still a little shaky here. Their secondary is allowing 232 yards, passing yards, which is ranked 27th in the NFL. I've always said that guy they drafted in Alabama, he's not looking too good. So you could pass on the Lions. Good thing they could score a lot of points, right? Also, I want to point out their starting middle linebacker. He is out for a few weeks. He's the guy who has the green dot on his head. So keep that in mind. The starting middle linebacker, or he's not a middle linebacker, correct me, Lions fans, but he's out for the game. And so I think that could be a potential loss since he wears the green dot on his head. They have a great rush defense, though. It's ranked 5th. The Lions have covered the spread in each of their last 12 road games following a home win. So keep that in mind. And the 5 of their Lions' 7 games have gone over the total points as well. Now let's get to the Colts. Colts are coming off a good win against the Jets. They needed that win. I think that was a morale boost for Anthony Richardson since they benched him for Flacco, and Flacco looked like ass. So a good win for the Colts, but a good win for Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson was pretty decent in that game. He went for 20 for 30, 272 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception, but he also ran for 2 touchdowns. So that's what you want to see. That's kind of what he did like his rookie season. He looked really good, ran the ball, which he should be doing a lot, run, and use that to go over the top and play action. They still have good weapons. They have Michael Pittman, they have Downs, they have Pierce, they have Jonathan Taylor. So they have weapons on this team. The Colts ranked 26th against the pass, so not good, especially the Lions who love passing the ball. And the Colts O-line is a little beat up, so keep in mind that they're a little beat up. They're on I think 2 or 3 of them are on the injury list this week, so keep that in mind. So with all that information, I think with the Colts being terrible at covering the pass, the Lions being terrible at covering the pass, Lions having more injuries to their defense with the safety and the linebacker out for this game. And with the Colts with their confidence up since winning last week and having a chance still to make the playoffs, I think this is going to be a high-flying game. I think these teams are going to pass in each other left and right. So give me the over 49.5. And I would take Detroit to cover the 7.5 as well. But I think the best play here is the over 49.5 or 15.5, wherever you can get it. But take the over. I think there's going to be a lot of touchdowns scored in this game. Now we have the battle of the NFC North. The Vikings versus the Bears. Vikings being favored by 3.5 and the over-under being 39 points. Vikings are coming off a good win against the Titans. They cover in that game. Sam Darnold had a nice bounce-back game. He needed it because he threw 3 interceptions against the crappy Jaguars. And I mean, I think we all thought that, oh, there's Sam Darnold. That's the Sam Darnold we know. Turnover happy and just a average to below average quarterback. But no, good bounce-back win again for him. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They're averaging almost 25 points a game. Their opposing teams are only scoring 17 points against them. They do have a good rushing defense, but their secondary is not so great, the Vikings. So you can pass on the Vikings. Vikings are covering 50% of the games when they are the favorite. So keep that in mind. And the Vikings have won every game they have played when leading at halftime. So that's another thing you want to keep in mind if you want to be a Vikings bettor. Now let's talk about the Chicago Bears. The Bears are coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Green Bay Packers. I don't know what the hell this head coach is thinking. This head coach is a bonehead. The Bears had a chance. By the way, the field goal got blocked if you didn't see the game. The Packers blocked the field goal and the Bears lost. But the Bears, before the field goal attempt, had a chance to run the ball at least one more time or a quick pass. They had plenty of time left on the clock to gain more yards and get closer to the goalpost and kick in a field goal. No, what does this bonehead head coach do? He wastes the time and then he kicks a field goal. This guy is a knucklehead, a bonehead. He should just be a defensive coordinator for the rest of his career because he cannot manage a team and he can't time. He's just making dumb decisions left and right. This guy should not be coaching, being a head coach, even a little league team, okay? So no, this was so stupid by the head coach. The Bears need to get rid of him in the offseason. This new offensive coordinator for the Bears, he simplified the playbook for Caleb Williams. He's had his best game yet during this 4-game losing streak. Now, it wasn't too great. He still didn't throw no touchdowns. But hey, he didn't throw any interceptions either, and that's better than nothing. He threw for 200 and something yards, but it was still his best game during this losing streak. It's still pretty terrible that they haven't thrown one passing touchdown in the last 4 games. That is pretty terrible. This offensive line is still terrible. Girl Scout girls could sack Caleb Williams. That's how bad this line is. And you know Brian Flores is going to scheme up some crazy blitzes to get after Caleb Williams. So good luck with that. They better take a prayer on a knee and hope they can block this Vikings defense. The Bears, though, they play better at home. They're 4-2 against the spread at home. I mean, they're 6-4 against the spread, and they're 4-2 at home. So they do their best when they're playing in Soldiers Field. So you know what? With all that being said, I really truly believe this, that I think that Sam Darnold is going to fall back down to earth. I know the Bears, they're on this 4-game losing streak, but I think this streak has to end. I think it's going to end right here against the Vikings. I take that back. I think the Bears have a great chance to win this game outright because I think Sam Darnold is going to fall back down to earth in this game. So everything is screaming, take the Vikings, take the Vikings, take the Vikings to cover the 3.5. But I think Sam Darnold has shown his true colors. Yes, he had a bounce back game against the Titans, but I do not trust this guy at quarterback whatsoever. So I think he's actually going to he's going to have some turnovers against the Bears. The Bears still have a solid defense. I think the Bears are primed to get out of this losing streak. So with all that, I like the Bears plus 3.5. I think they could do a backdoor cover. They're playing at home. They play better at home. And I also like the under 39.5. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Bears covering the plus the 3.5 is the best play. Now let's talk about the Broncos versus the Raiders. Broncos being favored by 6 points and the over-under being 41 points. Broncos are coming off a blowout win against the Falcons. The Falcons are garbage, but good win by the Broncos. Bo Nix has impressed me. I was not a Bo Nix fan, but he's looking great. He's thrown for 2,275 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. I mean, that's blowing me away. And he's on the heels for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's probably behind Jaden Daniels still, but I think he's on his heels to win it. Right now, the Denver Broncos have a playoff spot, and I think that helps the team, with the morale, and they know what they got to fight for to keep that last playoff spot. So I think that's a good thing to remember when you want to bet this game. Their defense is still great. They're allowing 190.7 yards a game, which ranks 7th, and they're allowing 98.6 rushing yards a game, which ranks 6th. So that's really good defense right there. They're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games, but just keep this in mind, but they're 0-8 against the spread in their last 8 road games against the Raiders. So the Raiders been having their number, in particular when the Denver had to go into Oakland, but now Las Vegas. Now the Raiders are coming off a blowout loss to the Dolphins. Is anybody surprised? Both their running backs are hurt coming into this game, and they may not play in White and Madison, so keep that in mind. They're on a 6-game losing streak, which, how the hell did they beat the Baltimore Ravens in week 2? That was a miracle. I'm sure everybody lost their ass off in that game, because how do you beat the Ravens when you look this pitiful? They have the worst rushing offense. Like I said, one of the worst rushing offenses in the league. All they have is Brock Bowers. He's like their only knight in shining armor. He's the only thing they got going for him. He has over 700 yards receiving, and I think he has like 70 receptions. So they're just feeding the ball to him left and right. So if you're a fantasy owner, if you have him, great pickup. So this matchup comes down to a few simple things for me. You have a great defense in the Denver Broncos versus a crappy offense in the Raiders. You have an okay defense in the Raiders versus a surging offense in the Broncos. And you have a surging quarterback in the Broncos versus a mediocre to below average quarterback in Gardner Minshew. So I think the writing's on the wall. I think the Broncos are going to win and cover the 6 points, but I also really like the under 41. I think they hold the Raiders to 41 points. I think they hold the Raiders to 10 points, and I think the Broncos, they could put up 20 to 24 points, and I can see the total being 36 to 38 points around that. So give me the Broncos to cover the 6 points and the under 41. We have one of the better matchups this week. We have the 49ers versus the Packers in Lambeau, with Packers being favored by 3 points and the over-under being 46.5. San Francisco is coming off an embarrassing loss to the Seattle Seahawks. I know it's a rival game, but they had the game and they blew it. That's the thing with the 49ers this year. They're blowing so many games. They cannot close games out. And that's not a good recipe for making the playoffs or even winning a playoff game. So they got to clean that up if they're going to want a chance to even make in the playoffs. The offense looks stale, which I don't know why it looks stale. I don't want to hear about injuries. They still have Jennings. They still have Debo. They still have CMC. They still have a great left tackle. Now, I know the right tackle is not great. He sucks. But still, it's still a good offense with a good core around Brock Purdy. And by the way, Brock Purdy, he looked garbage too against the Seahawks. And the Seahawks don't have that good of a defense. He threw for 159 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Woohoo! Good job, Brock Purdy. Man, I remember everybody blowing him up, acting like he was the next Steve Young. He doesn't look like it now, does he? He only has 13 touchdowns and 8 picks. That's not a good ratio, if you ask me. It doesn't make sense that they're 5-5. It really doesn't. Their passing offense is ranked 4th. Their rushing offense is ranked 7th. And they average 25 points a game. You would think that's a team that has 7-8 wins, but here we are. The San Francisco 5-5, and I believe they're last in their division. Not too good. And they're 1-3 or 0-3 in their own division too. So they've lost a lot of games to their division opponents. So that is not looking good for the 49ers. But if you dig a little deeper, this is how they are allowing them. This is why they're 5-5. They are allowing the most points under 2 minutes than any other team. So if it's close, if it's a close game, the 49ers are just not closing the games out, and they're letting teams score when it's 2 minutes or less. That doesn't sound like a championship quality team to me. They get Kittle back, so that's something they could look forward to. They got their good tight end who's having a great year this year. But Brock Purdy, he's on the injury report this week. Trey Williams is also hurt, and Bosa is also hurt too. And I believe Fred Warner, the middle linebacker, he's not playing that game. And Fred Warner is the lifeblood of that defense. It's not Bosa, it's Fred Warner. So keep an eye on that. But with all of these injuries, the 49ers are going to have to dig deep. If they're going to want to make the playoffs, their division is still winnable. The NFC West, I believe the Arizona Cardinals are 6-4 only. They got to dig deep. Who cares about the injuries? The 49ers need to dig deep to win this game against the Packers, because the Packers are looking at a wild card spot themselves. So the Packers are they're going to want to win this game a lot too, okay? So if the 49ers are going to have to dig deep like nobody's business and treat this like a playoff game to have any chance to beat the Packers. The 49ers have failed to cover the spread in 7 of their last 8 games against teams that held the winning record. Not good, because the Packers are 7-3, and they're 4-6 against the spread in general. So with that, let's talk about the Packers. The Packers are coming off an embarrassing win to the Bears. Yes, it's embarrassing. I don't care if a win's a win. They needed a block field goal, and they actually had to commit a penalty that wasn't called to block the field goal. Good thing Matt Eberflus is the head coach for the Bears, because if that was any other head coach, they would probably beat the Packers. Just go up a few more yards, kick the field goal, and then the Packers are done. No, what does the Bears head coach do? He wastes the time instead of getting a few more yards, and the Packers block the field goal and they win. So whatever, that's week 11. This will all come down, this game. This all will come down who will win against the San Francisco 49ers if the Packers can beat the 49ers, if Jordan Love can stop turning the ball over. I've been saying it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. The weak spot for the Packers is Jordan Love. He's no Brett Favre, okay? He's a poor man's Brett Favre so far. He's playing actually worse than he did last year. I could pull out a bunch of numbers because there's a lot of Jordan Love fans out there in Wisconsin who are kissing his ass thinking he's having a better year than he had last year. He is not, okay? And don't forget, I mentioned this multiple times, he was out for 2 games. So he'd probably lead the league in interceptions right now. Right now he's tied with Mahomes and Geno Smith. But I think he had 13 interceptions at least if he would have started those last 2 games. So this all comes down to Jordan Love. Can Jordan Love take care of the ball against a hurt 49ers defense? He can take advantage of them if he just plays clean ball. So, and by the way, if you saw that interception he threw against the Bears, he was right there in the red zone. He throws it. He missed them by a mile, and the Bears intercepted it, and the Bears almost won the game. See what I'm saying here? This has consequences. Every time Jordan Love turns the ball over against a team with a winning record, they usually win against the Packers. So, there's a trend here. The Packers have won 5 of their last 6 games. Good. They're 10th in scoring. That they have a good, solid offensive core surrounding Love, but Love needs to clean it up. Their defense is against the pass is ranked 15th, and they're 14th rank against the rush. So better than average defense. They need to get after the quarterback a little bit more. I believe I think they're only got 25 total sacks for the season, so not too great. So they need to come out with some different schemes to get after the quarterback. So you want to see that for the Packers to be successful even after this game. And they're 4-5-1 against the spread for the whole season. With all that being said, I've lost a lot of money on the 49ers this year. They have not looked good as last year. I think that doesn't even have to be said anymore. They're beat up a bit, but, even though I lost a lot of money because of them, they need this win way more than the Packers do. They see that their division is still wide open. They're only 1 game behind the Cardinals, and they know they have to win this game because next week they have the Buffalo Bills, who are better than the Packers. So they need to get this win just in case they lose to the Bills, okay? So I know the Packers are fighting to keep a playoff spot in the wild card, but I think the 49ers, they need to get ruthless. They need to get nasty, dirty to win this game. They need to dig deep. This is really going to show people who they really are, because if they don't win this game, or they don't cover, or if they get blown out, they're going to show that they're wimps this year, okay? So I'm going to bet, even though I've lost money on them before, I'm going to bet that the 49ers dig deep. They dig deep into their souls to win this game outright. So I'm taking the 49ers money line. I think they can make Jordan Love throw a few interceptions. You know he's going to give up one at least. So I think the 49ers, I'm going to take them plus the 3 points, but I'm also going to take the money line because I think they need this game way more than the Packers do, and they're going to dig deep into their souls to win this game. So give me the 49ers to win this game and the over 46.5. It's going to be a great matchup. And our next matchup, the 49ers will be paying attention to this even while they're playing. That is the battle of the NFC West, the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. Seahawks being favored by 1 point and the over-under being 47.5. Now the Cardinals are coming off a bye, but they're in first place. Who would have thought the Arizona Cardinals being in first place? I'm sure everybody had them in last place, but here we are, they're in first place. They're on a 4-game winning streak, which is surprising because their passing offense is only ranked 24th. You would think Kyle Murray would be higher, but it really isn't. He really doesn't have the best weapons. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't really shown that he's actually really going to be a great rookie. I know it's his first season, so I'm giving him a break, but you want to see more out of him because other rookie wide receivers are doing great in this league, but he's not doing so good. Their best receiver is their running back in McBride. McBride has 552 yards receiving. He's showing that he's one of the better tight ends in this league. But what keeps him in games is their rushing attack, which ranks 5th. Not only is it James Conner, who's like a reliable horse. He's always going to give you yards. He's going to do his best every single game. But Kyle Murray has to run a lot too. If the Cardinals stay in games, it's because Murray has to run and pass. So he basically has to play like Superman so the Cardinals can stay in games. Their run defense sucks, and the Cardinals, their secondary is not great as well. They're allowing 218 passing yards a game. And in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people's opinions, the Cardinals defense has been overachieving a lot this year. And there's a good chance that they come down to a good passing attack like the Seattle Seahawks. And for a total year, back to the Cardinals, they're 7-3 against the spread for the whole year. Now let's talk about the Seahawks. Seahawks got a great win against the 49ers. They needed that win. If they don't win that game, they're probably in last place in their division, the NFC West. But they get that good win, and now they're in contention with the rest of the teams. They have Metcalf back, which is really great. Metcalf is the glue for that team because without Metcalf, they're like a broken wash machine. It's working, but it's not really doing its job really well. You know what I mean? So their offense was looking janky and junky, but now that he's back, they get the win over 49ers and they get off that losing streak. So they're looking better. Their rushing offense, you'd think it'd be much better with Walker and Charbonnet, but they just can't get that rush offense off the ground. It's still not doing too great. They have the second best passing attack, the Seahawks. Like I said, Metcalf, he just makes Lockett better. He makes Smith better. Fant, the tight end. So Metcalf just makes the whole offense, especially in particular the passing offense, look great. And, like I said, it's going to help out the rushing game as well. Walker and Charbonnet should do better with Metcalf back in the game. With all that said, the Arizona, I believe they're overachieving. I've said that multiple times now. Murray has to take over games for them to be in contention. But I think the defense is going to come down to earth in the Cardinals in this game. I think the Seahawks got a big boost from beating the 49ers. They show that they can beat a good team. I think it's going to raise the morale. Metcalf is back. So give me the Seahawks to cover the 1 point. And I also like the over in this game, but I think the best bet is Seahawks to beat an overachieving Arizona Cardinals. And for our Sunday night football game, we have my Philadelphia Eagles versus the Los Angeles Rams. Eagles being favored by 2.5 and the over-under being 49 points. The Eagles are coming off a blowout win against the Commanders. Really great to see. They're on a 6-game winning streak. Jalen Hurts, he's looking like a dark horse MVP candidate. I don't think he's going to win the MVP, but he's in the top 4 in odds to win the MVP. Barkley, he's also looked like an MVP candidate. He's definitely probably going to win the Comeback Player of the Year award. He has 1,137 yards rushing with 8 rushing touchdowns, 210 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns to go with that. So the guy is killing it. The Eagles are the number 1 rushing team, the best rushing team in the league, and they're 7th in scoring. Back to Jalen Hurts here real quick. He has 297 yards passing, and he has 12 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. But he has 417 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns, and he leads all quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns. The whole offense is rolling, and the defense is looking like it's back on track. Looks like it is a top 10 defense. It is looking like, but the old defenses of the Eagles, when they had always 2 great corners, that's what it's looking like. It's looking like vintage Eagles when they had actually a good secondary. The only problem is the Eagles are average when it comes to rushing the quarterback, so keep that in mind. They don't get that many sacks, even though that Jalen Carter is looking like one of the best defensive tackles in all football. But he's just not getting enough sacks. But he leads the whole league in double-digit pressures during a game. So the guy's killing it for a second-year defensive tackle. Back to Jalen Hurts. He has 2,197 yards passing to go with 12 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. But he has 417 yards rushing and 11 rushing touchdowns. And not one quarterback's even close to that. The whole offense is rolling. Devontae Smith, he's a little beat up. I want to keep that in mind just to let you guys know. He has a hamstring injury. He hasn't practiced yet, but they're undefeated when A.J. Brown plays the game. So keep that in mind. When A.J. Brown is healthy, which he is, they haven't lost a game this season. They're second best against the pass, so the secondary is looking great. Thank God for Howie Roseman drafting those 2 corners, Cooper DeJean and Mitchell. What a dynamic duo they're going to make for the Philadelphia Eagles in the future. It reminds me of the Eagles of the past, back when McNabb was a quarterback, when they had always good corners. Remember Troy Vincent, Lito Shepherd. They always had Bobby Taylor. They always had good corners, and this reminds me of those old school teams. And they have good safety, so they have a good secondary in general. And they're 7th best against the rush, so they're guarding they're great against the run. They have good defensive tackles, good linebackers. Finally, the Eagles have good linebackers in Nakobe Dean and Bond. I'm sorry, keep on forgetting his name. The guy they signed in the offseason, he is looking great. He's going to be the defensive MVP for this team. So great signings by Howie and great drafting by Howie. But back to this matchup. The road team has covered the spread in 5 of the last Rams 6 games, and obviously the Eagles are the road team. And this is going to be a great matchup to test the Eagles' young secondary. They still have Darius Slay out there, so don't forget about him. He's doing really great this year. But the Rams have a really good receiving core, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. So they have a good surrounding receiving core around Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford is really good himself, but this is going to be a good test for the Eagles secondary. And let's talk about the Rams. They're coming off a win against the Patriots. They do cover in that game. They have won 3 of their last 4 games. They obviously have, like I said, a great offense. They have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Atwell, but also don't forget about Kyren Williams at running back, one of the better running backs in this league. He has 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns, I believe. Yeah, he has 8 rushing touchdowns and 750 yards rushing. So the guy is killing it. They have the 8th ranked passing attack, but even with Kyren Williams, their rushing attack is ranked 26. So it looks like even though they have Kyren Williams, they are not getting a lot of rushing yards here. Their secondary is not good as well. It's ranked 22nd, which is really good for the Eagles since they got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert is also healthy for this game. So with all that being said, I'm going to be a homer here. Kill me if you want. But the Eagles, I believe, are a better complete team. They have the better defense, and I think they could score just as much as the Rams could score. And I think Barkley is a better running back than Kyron Williams, and I think A.J. Brown is better than Cooper Kupp, and he's better than Puka Nacua. So, and we have the better offensive line, hands down the better offensive line. So give me the more complete team, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they go into the Los Angeles. It's going to be filled with a ton of Philadelphia Eagles fans. So give me the Eagles to cover the 2.5 and for this game to go under the 49 points. I think it's going to be an awesome matchup. It's just going to show more people that the Eagles are the real deal and a Super Bowl contender. So now it's time for my best bets. Now, I'm not afraid to admit it, my best bets did not do good last week. They went 0-3. Looked like the Chiefs game and the Bills game was going to go under, but the second half of that game went off like game busters and they go over the number. So that didn't hit for us. And my God, the Browns, now that I think about it, why did I think the Browns could do anything? I had them winning and covering the 1 point against the Saints, and the Saints took belt to ass to the Browns. So that didn't do too well for me as well. So I went 0-3 in my best bets. I'm 12-10 for my best bets so far. Still in the green, still going good. And like I said, each week besides week 11, the last 7 weeks besides week 11, I've been in the green above 500 each week. But forget all that. This is week 12. Let's go over my best bets for this week. My first best bet, I like it a lot. I think this team has a chance to make the playoffs. They know the door's open to win the division. And that is Tampa Bay to cover the 5.5 against the crappy New York Giants. I think the Giants are just pitting DeVito in to sell tickets, and that's why they're not pitting Drew Lock in. And Drew Lock would have given him a better chance to throw to the Giants' good weapons. But no, they're pitting Tommy DeVito in. I like that Baker Mayfield. The guy gives 110% every game, and he's having a great year this year. And they get back Mike Evans, which is just going to open the door for Cade Otton and Rachaad White and their other Bucky Irving, their other running back. So give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to cover this number easy 5.5. And for my second best bet, I like the over 49.5 in the Detroit versus Colts game. Both these teams have crappy secondaries. Both these teams have weapons surrounding their quarterbacks. The Detroit Lions get Laporta back, their starting tight end for this game. The Lions are also will be missing 2 starters on their defense in this game, and their linebacker and their safety. And the Colts, I think they got a good morale boost in beating the Jets last week. And I think Anthony Richardson showed some good signs. He had 2 rushing touchdowns and 1 passing touchdown and no turnovers. So I think that's going to just add more juice to their team. So I could see this game going 34-24. I think it's going to be around that range. So I think this goes easily over 49.5. And I would take it all the way to 50.5 if that's where you see it as well. So give me the over in the Colts versus Lions game. And for my third best bet, I'll keep it simple. I like the Miami Dolphins to cover the 7 points against the New England Patriots. The Patriots, I know Drake May has added a little spark to this offense, but they still don't really have any weapons. Who's their best weapon? Hunter Henry, Stevenson, the running back, with a shaky offensive line? I don't think so. I don't like the Patriots in this spot. I think the Dolphins, they're in a 2-game winning streak. They see that their playoff window is not completely shut. So I think that's going to give them extra motivation. It's going to give them juice to destroy the Patriots. Since Tua's been back, they average 28 points a game, and they still have a solid defense. And they have weapons galore. They have Waddle. They have A-Chain. They have Morissette, and they have Hill. They have now the Jonah Smith, the tight end, who's been doing really great for the Miami Dolphins. So I like the Dolphins. I think they're going to win this game to at least 10 points. I see it being a 30-20 game or a 28-18 game easily. So give me the Dolphins to cover the 7 points. And now let me give you some honorable mentions. These are games that were possibly my best bets, but I decided not to make them my best bets. I should make them my best bets because last week, week 11, all of my honorable mention games hit and none of my best bets hit. So go figure, what are you going to do? But let's turn the page on week 11. My honorable mention games for this week, week 12 in the NFL, are the Eagles to cover 2.5 points. The Eagles are a more complete team than the Rams. They have the better defense, the better offensive weapons. I will take A.J. Brown over Kupp and Puka Nacua. I also take our tight end, our offensive line better than the Rams, and we just have a better secondary and a better rush defense than the Rams as well. And I'll definitely take Barkley over Kyrie Williams. So I just think the Eagles have just a better complete team, and that's why I think they cover this 2.5 points easily. And also, give me the Ravens to cover the 3.5 points against the Chargers. If the Chargers win this game, I'll give them way more respect. But I think the Ravens, coming off a loss to the Steelers, they want to make a statement game that, hey, we're still that team. They still want to get first place and leapfrog the Steelers. So give me the Ravens to cover the 3.5 against the Chargers team, which I still think is shaky, but give me that Ravens team. So with that, guys, let's make this a profitable week. Don't beat yourself up too bad if your bets don't come in. And please, please bet responsible. If you don't have any money, do not sports bet, okay? It's not worth it. But please don't beat yourself up if your bets don't come in. We all have good days and we all have bad days, okay? If anybody could do this, we'd all be millionaires. So with that, guys, let's, like I said, have a profitable week. And I will always see you in the next one.